My wind ensemble and I are
going to Disney World!
And I'm going to show you how.
The basic steps involved with getting a trip approved by a school district involves submitting it to your principal to start. From there, he'll send it on to upper administration. And trips, at least in our school district, actually have to get approved by our school board. A fair amount of meetings, making sure that everyone knows what's going on and how it's getting handled. The stage of planning or preparing that I found the most difficult, I really think was just the fundraising and getting the students over that finish line to make sure that they could do the trip. Luckily, our booster groups set up some really great fundraisers that really helped get our students to where they needed to be financially. But it is definitely an investment. The sooner you can start planning and fundraising, the better. The stage of planning and preparing that went extremely easily was, I think, really just the itinerary for the trip, because I didn't have to do anything for that. The travel company handled that for us. So they put together the itinerary, they put together everything. If we needed to make any adjustments, we could send recommendations or requests. So that took a huge load off of what we had to do. The primary stressors when planning the trip, just making sure we kept track of all the students and kind of sticking to a schedule. High schoolers sometimes like to stick to their own schedule, so making sure we all met at the same time at the park, that honestly went extremely well. Just making sure everyone packed what they needed, just all of that stuff. And of course, the performing was a large purpose for the trip, so making sure that the performance went off without a hitch, making sure the kids were well rested, prepared, had everything they needed, and weren't, absolutely dying in the Florida heat. So. The thing that I think that went better than expected on the trip, like I said in the previous answer, I think was just how overall responsible the students were. I wasn't expecting it to be so easy to get them to a certain location at the correct time. We had very little issue with students being late for our meetup times, but we were very, very lucky with that. So. Yeah, overall, not too bad. Definitely some lessons learned for the future, especially, I would say, pertaining to Magic Kingdom, end of day, fireworks. I think we would rework the planning on that, whether it would be keeping the students in the park later to avoid the rush to the exit, or moving, as best we can to Disney transportation instead of the ferry. So, anyway. Thank you.
I think when planning a trip, if a school chooses to use a tour company, the tour company can handle a lot of the logistics that the band director or music director doesn't really want to deal with. So things like the transportation, not only getting from their home school to Disney, but also transportation while you're at Disney, whether you stay on property and take advantage of property transportation, or you stay off property and use local buses, things like that. Also the hotel, setting up the hotel reservations, that's a huge thing that the tour company can handle. Food, making sure that all the food coupons are what you want them to be, whether you choose to do the meal voucher plan or if you want to do organized meals within the park, which is something you can do at Epcot in particular. They have the American Pavilion where you can actually book a group dinner. Those are also additional costs, or the Hoop-Dee-Doo Review. Those are also things that, the tour company can arrange for the school. So those are the main things. Also, tour companies have buying power when it comes to tickets for the group for the actual parks. So you would probably want to take advantage of your tour operator for buying tickets for your group, because they can probably get a little bit of a better rate than you could. Even if you went in and said you wanted a group ticket, that your tour operator would likely have buying power, like I said, because they buy in bulk frequently. So they get a better breakdown on their pricing than you might if you were just traveling by yourself or trying to plan it on your own. It's really easy, I think, for a lot of people to think about going to Disney World with their family and what that would look like, whether it's a family of 4, family of 5, or even if you plan one of those big family vacations with all of the grandparents and aunts and uncles that come with you. I think that people don't take into account time, the time it actually takes to do all of the things that you think you want to accomplish in a day. And especially if you're doing it as a group, you have to take into consideration the fact that groups move slower than, a group of 50 kids. It's going to move slower than a group of 3, or if you've just got a family of 5. So getting people from A to B is one of the things I think people don't always consider when going to Disney World in any of the parks. And that's one of the things. Also, the transportation within the park system, whether you take advantage of on-property transportation if you stay at a resort that's on Disney property, or if you're staying off property, just the time involved. I think those are all things to consider, especially when you're thinking about attending, whether it's like the Happily Ever After show at the end of the night, or if you're looking to maybe hit one more performance, in the park of maybe one of the stunt shows, or if you just really want to ride Rise of the Resistance. What does that time frame look like, and how much time is that? So when groups do it, it's really important to take those things into consideration when you think about the time during the day, time of day that you want to get to the park, as well as the time you want to leave. Also keep in mind that things like the Happily Ever After or the evening shows at any of the parks, most of the time when those shows are over, it's a mass exodus to the exit of the park. So while you're excited about seeing it and you want your students to experience it, sometimes it actually creates a bit of a headache when you're trying to leave the park right after. And the thing is that especially if you're not using on-property transportation, but you're using private drivers or a private coach system, you need to think about driver hours. And there's, only so many hours in the day that they're allowed to be on duty. And that includes from the time they put the key in the door to unlock the bus, not even wheels on the ground moving. So those are things to consider when planning the trip. And what time you get to the park versus what time you leave. You actually almost kind of have to work backwards to make sure that the drivers have enough downtime during the day and that they are safe, because safety is of the utmost priority when you are working with a bus company, for sure. Traveling with a music group to Disney is exciting. And Disney over the years has changed a bit about how they like to have performances for groups. So right now, and this is April of 2024, the rules for Disney say that the only outside groups that are allowed to perform inside of a Disney park, and I'm talking about Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, or Epcot, the only place that you can perform inside the park as an outside ensemble is in Magic Kingdom as a marching band. That's it. That's all that Disney offers in terms of in-park performances. Now, if you have a choir, if you have an orchestra, string orchestra, concert band, dance group, you can actually perform at Disney Springs, which is a free park, it's not really a park, it's more of a shopping and entertainment complex that's open to the public, year round. And people that live in the Orlando area go there for dinner, or they might go there just as a Saturday to have some time with their family. But it's a free experience for those folks. Disney Imagination Campus is the coordinator for all Performance Disney. So as a director, you need to apply to Disney Imagination Campus with, what music that you'd be playing, what uniforms or costumes you might be wearing, as well as when you want to travel, and you make those applications. Disney then takes into consideration if you've got multiple ensembles coming from your school. They will try to put you all on the same day of your trip so that you're not bouncing around from park to park within your trip. So you can just have one day where you're going to Disney Springs and doing those performances. Keep in mind, though, that it's a lot of walking. Disney Springs performance requires a lot of walking. So you want to make sure that you've got able-bodied students that can get from A to B with their instruments relatively easily. Disney will provide, large percussion equipment, orchestra chimes, vibraphones, timpani, bass drum, snare drum even, those things are provided. But, if you've got a string bass, you got to walk that through the Disney Springs area back to your loading area and their warm-up area. So those are the options for non-marching band ensembles to perform at Disney. It all happens at Disney Springs in Orlando. This is specific to the Orlando trip. You can go to Disney in Anaheim, and they have other opportunities there, but they primarily do the same thing in terms of parade only, Magic Kingdom only, and then they've got off-site performance availability for other ensembles. One of the things that I've seen for groups when they talk about their experience at Disney or performing with Disney, and what kind of things they wish they had known before their trip, I think a lot of that has to do with how the tickets are designed. When you're traveling with a group, park hopping sounds really fun. It's like, oh, well, we can go from A to B to B to A, and, Magic Kingdom to Epcot, or Epcot to Hollywood Studios. The problem being is that a lot of groups travel at the same time each year, typically over spring break, typically maybe over the Easter holiday, or maybe President's Weekend in February. So people don't take into account the amount of groups that would be already at Disney with them from other schools around the country. That's an issue, and that's a pitfall I think some groups fall into. They didn't take that into consideration. And group tickets are designed as single park tickets. So, and you make a reservation and you agree ahead of time that you will do Magic Kingdom on day 1, Epcot day 2, Hollywood Studios day 3, Animal Kingdom day 4. And not necessarily in that order, but that's an example. So, and it actually helps you as a group to keep your group together. You really want to make sure that your students and your chaperones stay to one park each day. That way you're already taken into account for head counts for the park, because if the park reaches maximum capacity for that day, that's it. They won't let you into the park if you don't have a reservation that day. So it's important to take that into consideration as you're making your plans. And as we all know, park hopping is a luxury that, a family could do. It's not always the best plan for students, especially student groups traveling as a group, because it's another way for you to kind of keep track of your students. Disney is an extremely safe place to take a group. There's lots of, cameras and security measures that are in place to maintain that sense of security and that sense of comfort. So it's important to know that even with all the security things in place, you still want to have control over your group and keep them in chaperone groups within the same park that day. It's much easier to do head counts and figure out and keep track of where everybody is at the same time. So I would think that's one of the biggest pitfalls that I think groups fall into. They want to treat it like a personal trip as opposed to a group trip, how the tickets are processed. And additionally, it's important to know that with a lot of the online programs that Disney offers in terms of Genie Plus or Lightning Lane, things like that, it's important to realize that Disney they adhere to the internet commerce laws that say that no one under the age of 18 is supposed to be purchasing anything online. Now, Whether that happens in the real life, we all know I'm sure it does. But Disney, their policy, and one that we follow as tour operators, is anyone under the age of 18 is not supposed to do that. So things like Genie Plus and going online and making purchases for getting onto a ride faster or into certain queues, Disney frowns upon that. So, and since most of our student groups are under the age of 18, it's important to just keep that as a universal rule. Don't do Genie Plus with the group. Save that for when you're here with your family and go through the trip like that. So that's another pitfall I like to warn people about beforehand. Music performance groups that choose to go to Disney, in particular marching groups, I think it's important for everyone to know, as a marching band, that as you perform in the Magic Kingdom, part of your performance involves the pre-performance and prep and uniforms and things like that. They're very strict with their timelines, so it's very important to make sure that you are at the gate for your performance at the right time, where the Disney rep will meet you and take your group backstage, keeping in mind that cell phones and photos are not allowed until you get to the Disney Imagination campus location backstage to do your marching performance. It's important also to remember that through that application process, they're pretty stringent about what uniforms you're wearing, what your flags look like, they don't allow any type of rifle or saber to be used with your color guard as part of your parade performance. So it's important to know and read through those directions very carefully. A tour operator will help you with that, but it's important for you to pay attention to that too, so that you make sure you pack the right things in bringing them down. Your buses and equipment trailer can meet you backstage with your stuff, so you don't have to carry that through the park for the day. But it's also important that you pay attention to that. There's also attire requirements for anybody who's marching with the group through Main Street. So, directors and any adults, any chaperones have to wear, like dress slacks, a jacket, a sport coat. You can wear sneakers, but they insist on, a jacket and sport coat for any adult marching with the group, because they want to maintain a certain level of professionalism as you are actually marching in Magic Kingdom. It's a big deal. They take it very seriously. They actually also issue their own banner for you to carry in front of your band. So that's another item you would probably want to consider, so you don't have to pack yours. But another issue, if there's any issues that come up during the day, like I said before, you want to make sure that when you are performing at Disney Springs, that you have, accessible students that are able to make the walk from the performance space to the backstage area and maneuver. They have assistance for you. So it's not that you can't have anybody who is not capable of walking the distance, but it's just something to make sure that you're aware of and that you prepare for, so that you can make sure that Disney also knows, so that your Disney escort will know exactly how to maneuver your group and help you have the easiest, smoothest experience. They're willing to help, but they're very strict about how they do it. So just make sure that you communicate clearly beforehand to Disney what the needs of your group are. I also know that there's a lot of people who have certain food sensitivities and food issues, and every vendor at Disney is prepared for that. So I think one of the most important things a director can do is to encourage self-advocacy for your students. This is a great way for students to practice what they will need to do in the real world. So this is a great time for them to be able to go to a food counter and say, hey, I am gluten-free. I can't eat anything with gluten in it. I can't eat anything with tree nuts. I can't eat it, whatever the situation might be. To say that to the clerk, and they will be able to give you the food at that station that meets your dietary needs, or to prepare something that would meet your needs. But it's a great way to practice that, and I encourage that for every director, to encourage that for their students. I also think that it's important, one of the issues that does come up is everybody wants to meet at the castle, or everybody wants to meet at Spaceship Earth. Maybe find another spot that is easy to find, highly identifiable for your group to meet, maybe at the end of the night, or maybe it's a midday check-in time, something like that. I would encourage groups to take advantage of those things, and to, again, keep in mind the things that you don't always think about, you're excited about getting to the park, but you don't always think about how to leave the park at the end of the day. So that's an important thing that I would encourage a director or teacher or group leader to take into account as they're planning their trip. When you travel with Peak Group Travel, you're getting a personal, customized experience. It's one of the things we pride ourselves on is not doing cookie cutter itineraries so that you get exactly what you need from the trip. Certain groups have certain requirements in terms of educational components, cross-curricular components, certain number of performances or a certain number of clinics. So we like to make sure that when we design a trip for your group, that all of the components that you want as an educator are included in your trip. We also include things like an app for your tour to help you with things like attendance and getting messages out to your group in case there's any kind of meeting time changes or inclement weather updates, things like that. We also have contactless fundraising opportunities that we can partner with you on to help facilitate getting your trip paid for, which we know is one of the biggest obstacles for most groups in terms of tour and travel. And travel really isn't typically mandatory for most schools. So, we understand that and we respect that and we appreciate everybody that chooses Peak Group Travel to do that because it implies a lot of trust and we take that very seriously. We want to take care of you in providing safe transportation options, clean hotels, and amazing experiences that the students will remember forever. So that's why I think you should choose Peak. And I know that we've got lots of directors that would agree and would be willing to share the same. I just know that working for Peak is very rewarding. I love being part of positive experiences for students. And I know all of my colleagues feel the same way. It's the reason we do what we do. And we're very proud to do it.
That's right. It's the day of travel. We are taking charter buses all the way down to Florida. We're here at the school, ready to go. It's a travel montage.
So far, so good. Made it to Baltimore.
Here we are, first major stop. We're in Lumbarton, North Carolina. We've changed drivers. We have our next stop is the Daytona Buc-ee's. As you can see, we have arrived at All Star Music. The students are fading off to go put their stuff away, and the bus ride has finally ended.
By the way, this is what it looks like when you put your entire band on one bus.
Band, chorus, and orchestra, all in one bus. And that's Caleb, and he's awesome. Help! Help! Y'all see where that bus is pulling out from right now? That is the Disney Imagination Campus. That is where you'll bring your group in order to perform. They are, and I apologize, there's a lot of wind today, which is going to be kind of scary on the stage, but you'll bring them to that Imagination Campus building with your bus, and then you'll get a chance to warm up. Hoping you're able to hear that with all the wind. I'm going to try my best here. Are y'all ready to perform in Disney World?
guest performance and enjoy the rest of your day here at Disney Springs.
So here I am at Epcot. Didn't film anything after the concert ended because it was so whirlwind. I want to talk about a couple things that for you to help you is that when you perform at the Disney Imagination Campus, your buses will have to go to the Imagination Campus, wait until someone comes out, then put your kids into this space for a rehearsal, and then you will get to rehearse, and then you get back on your buses and they take you over to the entrance to go to the performance space, the venue, the waterside stage. There's a lot of walking involved, a lot of walking. So just be prepared to be walking a lot with your organization, with your choir, with your band, with your orchestra. The great thing is that they do provide all the big percussion equipment, all of the string instruments that you could possibly use, but it was an incredible experience for my kids. I was really excited to be able to share that with them. The fact that this giant crowd formed while we were performing. I mean, you saw some of the performance in this video, and I think my kids performed admirably, sort of the choir, and sort of the orchestra. It was really awesome to be able to bring them to this performance space. I'm probably going to do this again. Definitely going to do this again. Not even probably. I'm going to definitely do this again. It's a great way to perform with your ensemble while you're here in Disney. Yes, there's a lot of walking. This is a lot of logistics, and it was a lot of what I like to call hurry up and wait. As you can tell, the sun is sitting behind me. I was trying to get a really cool shot. While I'm here in Epcot. I'm actually in between Mexico and Norway having this conversation because my kids are coming here to see Luminous tonight, and I'm just chilling out in my favorite park. And I was like, I'm going to talk to camera about my experience with the Disney Imagination Campus. You should bring your band on this. I hope you enjoyed those interviews from Beth Beccone and Boeshore. Those will really help you understand like what went into the planning part of it and what the tour guide company should do and all that other stuff. But being able to bring my band here and put this performance on is something you should do. Yes, there's a lot of planning that's involved, but it's definitely something you should do with your organization, with your music organization. It's such a great way to share your department with other people, to be able to share your music with other people. I really recommend that you go for bringing your band here to the Disney Imagination Campus. So, if you have any questions, shoot them down in the comments. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, the whole thing. This is a different kind of video for me. I hope that you enjoyed it. And like we always say, we don't like to say goodbye because we're going to see you real soon. So we say, see you, bye.